Hi everybody. Today is Monday, April 20th, 2020. I hope you had a good weekend. There will be a math lesson today attached to this video, so make sure that you have your math ready to go. Okay, today I'm going to start reading a chapter book. It's a Magic Treehouse book, and I'll try to read a chapter every day just like we did when we were in school. And if there's a picture, I'll show you the pictures. Otherwise, I'll just keep reading. So our book is called Dark Day in the Deep Blue Sea. Chapter 1, Back to the Sea. Jack felt raindrops. He looked up and saw a summer storm cloud. Hurry, Jack called to Annie. They were riding their bikes home from the library. Jack's backpack was filled with library books. He didn't want them to get wet. As Jack and Annie pedaled faster, a large white bird swooped over them and flew into the Frog Creek woods. "Did you see that?" cried Jack. "A seagull," called Annie. "It's a sign." "You're right," said Jack. The last time they'd seen a seagull in Frog Creek, the magic treehouse was waiting for them. "The woods," said Annie. Jack and Annie bumped their bikes over the curb. The rain fell harder as they headed into the wet woods. Their bike tires bounced over the rough ground, crushing leaves and snapping twigs. "It must be time to look for another secret of happiness for Merlin," Jack called. "I hope Merlin's feeling better," shouted Annie. "I hope Teddy and Kathleen came with the treehouse," shouted Jack. "Me too," shouted Annie. Jack and Annie steered their bikes under canopies of wet leaves. By the time they came to the tallest oak in the woods, the seagull had disappeared. But the magic treehouse was back. It was high in the tallest oak, its rope ladder swaying in the wind and rain. Jack and Annie climbed off their bikes and propped them against the trunk of the tree. "Teddy! Kathleen!" Annie shouted. There was no answer. "I guess they didn't come this time," Jack said. "Darn," said Annie. "I really wanted to see them." "Boo!" Two older kids looked down out of the treehouse window, a curly-haired boy with a big grin and a girl with sea-blue eyes and a beautiful smile. Both were wearing long green cloaks. "Yay!" cried Annie and Jack. The rain fell harder as they started up the rope ladder. When they climbed into the treehouse, they yanked off their bike helmets and hugged Teddy and Kathleen. "Morgan sent us to tell you about your next mission for Merlin," said Teddy. "How is Merlin?" asked Annie. Teddy stopped smiling. He shook his head. "Merlin still suffers from an unspoken sorrow," Kathleen said sadly. "When can we see him?" asked Annie. "We've learned 2 secrets of happiness to share with him," said Jack. "You may visit him after you have learned 2 more secrets," said Kathleen. "Morgan believes 4 is the magic number that will ensure success." "We have come to send you on your search for a 3rd secret," said Teddy. Kathleen took a book from under her cloak and handed it to Jack and Annie. "From Morgan's hands to our hands to yours," she said. Jack took the book from her. The cover showed waves crashing on a beach. "Wow," said Jack. "We're going to the ocean." "Yes," said Teddy. "That is where you will next search for a secret of happiness." "The ocean always makes me happy," said Annie. "Once Jack and I traveled to a coral reef and swam with dolphins, and we ran into an octopus, but he was nice and shy, and—" "But the shark we saw wasn't shy," Jack broke in. "It was a big hammerhead." "Oh my," said Kathleen. "We took a ride in a mini-sub," said Annie. "It was so cool. Until it started to leak and—" said Jack. "We had to escape," said Annie. "Yeah," said Jack. "We try not to splash so the shark wouldn't notice us." "We had so much fun," said Annie. Kathleen smiled. "Well, I hope you will not find the same fun on this journey," she said. "But in case you do, you have your wand to help you. Do you not?" asked Teddy. "The wand of Dinathus?" This is the picture of the deep blue sea. "Of course," said Jack. "I always carry it, just in case." Jack reached into his backpack and pulled out the silvery wand. It was shaped like the spiraled horn of a unicorn. You remember the 3 rules? Asked Kathleen. Sure, said Jack. To make magic, we use a wish with only 5 words. And before we use the wand, we have to try our hardest, said Annie. And the wand can only be used for the good of others, said Jack, not just ourselves. Exactly, said Teddy. I wonder who the others will be on this mission, said Annie. She looked at Teddy and Kathleen. Maybe you guys? I fear not, said Kathleen. You must find the 3rd secret on your own. Just remember to keep your wits about you, said Teddy. And listen to your heart, said Kathleen. Okay, said Annie. We'll tell you all about it when we see you again. Lightning flashed through the woods as Jack pointed to the cover of the ocean book. I wish we could go there, he said. Thunder cracked in the dark sky. The wind blew harder. The treehouse started to spin. It spun faster and faster. Then everything was still, absolutely still. Okay, tomorrow I'll read chapter 2. It's called Pirates Again? Okay, today in math, we are on lesson 5, and we're going to learn about making bar graphs. So I'd like you to get out your workbook pages that start with the page that looks like the one that I have on the screen. Okay? We are going to make a bar graph that's titled Favorite Summer Activity. So the activities are swimming, boating, and water skiing. Now, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to ask your family at home and fill in a box next to each person's choice, or you can fill in any 6 boxes on the graph. So you need a total of 6, okay? So ask your family at home and what their favorite summer activity is, and fill in a box next to the activity that they choose. So you need a total of 6. Otherwise, just fill in 6 boxes on the graph. So this is an example of what you could have. If 3 people at home said swimming was their favorite summer activity, you would fill in 3 boxes next to swimming. If 1 person picked boating, then you would fill in 1 square next to boating. And 2 picked water skiing, you would fill in 2 boxes next to water skiing. If you look across the bottom, you have the numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So that helps you know how many boxes you're filling in. Okay, now on the next page. At the top it says, a bar graph uses bars to show information or data. Use the tally chart to make a bar graph. So you have a tally chart that's called favorite healthy snacks. So people voted on what their favorite healthy snack was. There are apples, cheese, and celery. So there are 2 tally marks next to apples. So 2 people picked apples, 1 person picked cheese, and 3 people picked celery. So there are tally marks in the tally mark column, and then you need to write the total in the last column, the total column. I'd like you to trace over those numbers, 2, 1, and 3. Then next to the tally chart, we have a bar graph. It's also called favorite healthy snack, and it has apples, cheese, and celery. You're going to take what you learned about the tally marks and put it over into the bar graph. So 2 people picked apples, so you fill in 2 squares next to apples. 1 person picked cheese, so you fill in 1 square next to cheese. And 3 people picked celery, so you fill in 3 bars next to celery. Okay, number 1 says, write the totals in the tally chart. So this one is called Shapes I See. So you have squares, triangles, and circles. Under each tally, under the tally column, you have the number of squares. So if you saw 6 squares, then you'd write 6 tally marks. There are 6 there. So write the total of 6 in the last column. There were 4 triangles. So then you have to write the total in the last column. And there were 7 circles. So write in the total. Okay, number 2. 2 says use the tally chart in exercise 1 to make a bar graph. So we're going to use the information from the tally chart in number 1 to now make a bar graph to go with it. So look at how many shapes, or how many squares, that you saw, and fill in the number of boxes next to square. Look at how many tally marks there are for triangle and how many tally marks there are for circle, and fill in that number of squares into each of those. Okay, at the bottom it says talk math. What is a bar graph? Describe it. So I want you to talk to somebody at home about what a bar graph is and what it looks like. Okay, let's go on to the next page. At the top it says ask 10 friends to name their favorite playground activity. But because we're not at school, I'd like you to ask your family at home and write the tallies, or you can add 10 tallies anywhere on the chart. So I want you to write the totals into the tally chart. So this is their favorite playground activity. We have jump rope, slide, and basketball. So in the column under votes, I'd like you to put tally marks for how many people picked jump rope. Then I'd like you to write in how many picked slide and how many picked basketball. Then in the last column under total, I want you to write the number. Count up the tally marks and write the number in that column. Number 4 says use the tally chart in exercise 3 to make a bar graph. So you're going to use the tally chart in number 3, and now you're going to make a bar graph using that same information. So if there were 4 people who picked jump rope, you'd color in 4 bars next to jump rope. If 2 people picked slide, you'd color in 2 bars next to slide. If 4 people picked basketball, you'd color in 4 bars next to basketball. All right, let's go on to number 5. 5 says, a survey shows that 1 person likes oatmeal, 8 people like pancakes, and 3 people like scrambled eggs. How many people were surveyed? So you need to count up the total number of people that pick different foods. Okay? So remember, 1 liked oatmeal, 8 liked pancakes, and 3 liked scrambled eggs. So how many were surveyed in all? Write the numbers on the lines, and then you get the total number of people when you add them all together. Okay, number 6 says, Bryden saw fish and crabs at the beach. He saw 13 animals in all. If he saw 8 crabs, how many fish did he see? So he saw 13 in all. That's the total. If he saw 8 crabs, how many fish did he see? Then you're going to write the subtraction number sentence you used to solve it. Okay, at the bottom it says, how do you show each vote on a bar graph? Explain. So if you were collecting information from people and you were taking votes about something, how would you show each vote on a bar graph? I'd like you to write it in words and talk to somebody at home about it. Okay, if you have any questions about your math, make sure that your moms or dads let me know. Have a good day, everybody.